am too. That was so beautiful. I'm so thankful for all of the musicians and other artists who are here tonight. And as you heard, my name is Mailande Moran, and here tonight I would love to talk to you about what I like to call the art of noticing, otherwise known as finding inspiration in everyday life. So I am a writer and an artist here in Durham, and I'm really passionate about paying attention to things, noticing them. And so today I'm going to share a little bit about my creative process and kind of how I think about noticing. And that usually starts with two different kinds of landscapes. So we have our interior landscape, what happens within us, and the exterior landscape, what happens all around us. And so shout out to Trevor, by the way, who is taking on the unexpected role of changing my slides for me, so we're going to figure this out together. So I want to first go inward and start with our interior landscape, where your task is to notice yourself. And within you, there's all kinds of stuff happening, right? We have emotions like joy and fear and anger. And then we have a bunch of other stuff swimming around. We have things like your brilliance, your dreams, the strength that you built up over your life, the patterns you might fall into, and the wounds that you might still be carrying around. And so then if we turn around to our exterior landscape, what we're doing there is noticing the world. And so that might be something as obvious as the beautiful mountains of Montana. Or it might be something kind of hidden, like maybe there's a mug that if you look at it right, actually has a rainbow inside, if you take a second to notice it. And so, of course, the magic happens when we think about the ways our interior landscapes and our exterior landscapes play together in everything that happens then. And for me, that's the key to my creative practice, is thinking about what happens within me, what happens outside, and how those two interact. And so to illustrate that a little bit, I'm going to start by talking to you about a couple of different creative projects that I've done over the past few years. And the first one of them is called the Biz Card Project. And yes, that is an Instagram hashtag, so bear with me. But this project started when I finished grad school and realized that I had so many business cards left over. You have to order a ton of them, and as great as anyone could possibly be at networking, you really cannot get rid of all of them. And I hate wasting paper, so at first I tried to use them as tiny grocery lists or reminders, and I still had this stack of them, and I was like, ugh, I can't just recycle them, you can use them for something. And I ended up deciding that I was going to draw on the backs of them every day until they were gone. And this was a way for me to both build a daily drawing practice and also to get over my perfectionism with making things and showing them to people, because I made myself promise, and I promised to a friend that I would put them on the internet every day after I made them. Terrifying. But it was an amazing project and really changed a lot in my life. And so I'll share a couple of them with you. This first one is actually a pattern, and this is really funny to me because these are literally the size of business cards, and now this is the biggest this has ever been. So this is really cool. But anyway, this pattern has actually come up a bunch in my work ever since. I've used it on stage design and a whole bunch of other things, but this is actually modeled after an ottoman that I bought at Target. And so that day when I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to draw? What am I going to draw? I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, so I'll adapt it and put it on this thing. So again, interplay between what I wanted and what was out in the world. Next up, so this was kind of a pun. Can you figure out what this is? Oh, sorry, I'm in your way. Yeah, comma, 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 chameleon. And this happened because that song was stuck in my head that day. I had to Google image search a chameleon because I don't really know what they look like. But I thought about when I was a kid, and I didn't know what karma was yet, but I did know what a comma was. And that's what I thought that song was saying. And so, okay, so that's thing number two. And then the next one that I'll share, so this one happened when one of my students had actually sent me a plastic octopus tentacle in the mail. And that's a whole different story we don't have time for tonight. But when I was looking for inspiration that day, I saw this tentacle, and I was like, I guess I'll try to draw this. And then it kind of looked like the octopus was dipping its toe into something. I mean, I know they don't have toes, but whatever, the end of its tentacle into something. And I was like, well, what if it was a land octopus who was learning to swim for the first time, like trying to get his confidence up, you know? So that's where that one came from. And so, again, I was kind of like looking around, finding inspiration around me so that I could make something and share it with other people. So the next project that I'll share is called Mailande Draws on Things. It is pretty straightforward. So after drawing on these business cards, which are not really meant as canvases, I was like, okay, cool. What else can I draw on? And I looked around me and I found things like drawing on toilet paper, because why not? Or drawing on my friend Justin's face. He looks pretty cool, right? Like, that turned out awesome. Turns out you can use makeup for really fun stuff if you get creative with it. And again, I wanted to think about, how have I been trained to see the world around me? Can I actually see things as unintentional canvases? Can I think differently about my surroundings? And so, and I'll share one more project with you. This is called Overlay, and it's more serious than the others, but with Overlay, I wanted to think about mental health and think about the ways in which, when we're experiencing anxiety, when we're processing trauma, our minds give us different messages around the world, about the world and our place in it. So I wanted to think about, what happens? How do we see what's around us? Are there messages that our brains create for us? And in a more abstract sense, how might our identities in the face of all of this be fractured and sort of come back together? And how might we see that in different ways? And so I share all of these projects with you, partially because I love them, but partially because what happened with them wasn't just that I connected with the world, it was also that I connected with people around me because of them. So for example, with the BizCard project, I had friends say, oh wait, well if she can do that, I can do something, right? And so they started drawing mandalas every day, or they started making poetry every day and sharing it. And it was beautiful, so cool. And with Overlay, I really opened up new conversations with people that I care about mental health, PTSD, all of the things that we find it really hard to talk about. And so I share that just to say that the things you make don't have to be just for you. They can also be a tool to connect with the people that you love and new people. So now that I've shared a little bit about these projects, I want to kind of talk about some of the strategies that I use to pay attention to my internal landscape, my exterior landscape, and the connections between them. So let's go back to the middle, noticing yourself. And I have two main strategies I'm going to talk about today to do this. And the first one is to carve out time to write. And I know I'm probably not the first person you've ever heard to say that writing and journaling is great. But I share this because this has been an incredibly transformational tool for me to figure out what the heck is going on inside of me. Because if I don't get it out so I can look at it, it's really hard for me to tell sometimes. But the tool that I use isn't the kind of journaling where you sort of write, oh, these bunch of things happened today, logging it down, although that's really cool to do too. What I do is a practice called morning pages that comes to me from an artist named Julia Cameron and her book, The Artist's Way. And it's really straightforward. All you do is first thing in the morning, you write 3 pages longhand of anything. It's kind of like taking out the trash of your mind. And so it's stream of consciousness, nobody else gets to read it, no judgment, just do whatever you want for those 3 pages. And the idea is that you can sort of, if there's anything that's sort of causing you anxiety or things you haven't put your finger on, you can get them out. And you're also not supposed to go back and read them yourself, but I actually like breaking that rule and going back because I can see what random stuff was on my mind the morning 3 weeks ago, or even yesterday, and it's really fascinating to me. So I would encourage you to take that time to just kind of more closely examine what's going on in your own head. And if you want to journal in a different way, go for it. You can do whatever you want. But the second thing I want to talk about is, give me a second with this thing, here we go. The second strategy is to look back on yourself as a kid. Because writing helps you figure out what's going on now, but there are also, I think, potentially some interesting clues about yourself if you look back, about what you loved when you were a child. So for example, as you can see, I, as a child, was basically the nerd emoji as a person. So I would go to the library and check out every book on killer whales or ancient Egypt, or I would read Calvin and Hobbes until I fell asleep, even though I didn't understand half the words because I was too little, and Calvin has a really big vocabulary. I taught myself calligraphy in 3rd grade, and it probably wasn't awesome, but the point was I loved letters. And now when I look at myself, the things that I love the most about my creative practice are learning random things for no reason, thinking about the relationships between words and letters, words and images, and also just drawing letters, which are super, super fun. So those are, I really think that if you think back, what brought you joy as a kid? And is that thing present in your life now? And if it's not, is there a place for it so that you can sort of get back into that sort of that innocence, that enjoyment of life that we had when we were kids? And so I'm going to turn back to our exterior landscape again and share a couple of strategies for that. And the first one is to keep a traveler's mind. And I say this because I'm a person who travels a lot for family, for work, for play. And when we come back into our homes, into the familiar, it can be really tempting to just think that we already know what's going on, right? Like, it's our apartment, it's our street, it's the people that we're used to running into. But if we can approach the everyday with a little bit more humility and realize that everyone around us is changing, we're changing, and so our interactions are also going to change. There's so much dynamic potential there. And if we can view everything like we're coming there for the first time, we can notice things that we wouldn't have noticed if we sort of go on autopilot the way that we're used to doing. And it's hard to do this. It's something I'm not always great at, but it's a practice that I really like to focus on as I move around all the time. And secondly, I truly believe that everyone is here to teach us something. And that can be as simple as seeing a stranger and sort of noticing something about their personal style, or interacting with somebody and understanding that their personal brand of kindness is something that you can bring forward. But to me, this is really exciting because almost all of you are sitting next to someone right now, and you might already know them, but maybe you don't. And if you're sitting by yourself, there's someone like pretty close to you. And every one of those people has something to teach you. It's so awesome. And so I think that, as we go to this ice cream social afterward, it could be an interesting time to ask them a question you've never asked them before. And so there's so much potential for us to add joy and learning to each other's lives, and we just need to stay open to the possibility. And so now we're going to the magic spot, this purple circle, where both of those things interact. And I will share my two favorite strategies for this, the first of which is feel everything. We are creatures in the world, and we forget it because we think we're like phone people or something. It's really strange to be alive right now. But honestly, when you wake up in the morning, place your hand on your chest and listen to yourself breathe. Feel yourself all the way in, all the way out. And then think about how incredible it is that your body does that all day without you even thinking about it. That is wild that we do that. It's incredible. And when you're walking around, feel your feet touch the floor and feel them come back off of it again. We do that all day. The fact that I am standing up right now is incredible. That I haven't fallen down once today, we are miracles, honestly. It's unbelievable. But also think about the ways that you change throughout the day. Like, is there a person that makes your heart beat a little faster? Is there something that makes you anxious? Is there a situation that calms your soul? Pay attention to those things because they're giving you clues about where you could draw your attention, where you can notice new things. And then the last one is slow down. And this is really hard for me and for a lot of us, I think. But this comes to life in different ways. Can you walk somewhere instead of driving? Can you take 2 minutes to sit in silence before you go somewhere? Can you put down your phone when you're at dinner with somebody and leave it there the whole time? And can you build in buffer time to your calendar so you have a second to just catch your breath before you go to something else? And then, can you stay slow over time? Can you be patient with yourself? If you're trying to make something, can you remember that it's okay if it takes a long time? T.S. Eliot, for example, incredible American poet, wrote, 150 pages of poems over 25 years. That's like half a page a month. But what he did make was incredible. And so I just want to remind you that there's no clock ticking on what you're going to make. There's nobody that's worried about when it's going to happen. It's up to you. And if we can sort of slow down, notice things, and let all of this beautiful stuff around us sink in, we can really make some lovely things for each other. And so with all of that said, the strategies that I've been sharing today, everything from slowing down, to keeping a traveler's mind, to remembering that everyone is here to teach you something, they're all gateways to inspiration. And inspiration Inspiration is also a gateway to faith. And whether you believe that the world around you and the world within you, whether you believe that they're blessings from God or gifts from the universe or a bunch of really cool stuff that just showed up and we're not really sure how, the truth is that taking the time to notice what's within us, the wonders within us and everything around us, brings us closer to ourselves and closer to the mysteries that we contain. And it also gives us the tools we need to make beautiful things for each other that make the world brighter for ourselves and the people around us. And so today, my hope is that you can walk away with some tangible ways to notice new things and find more inspiration in your everyday miraculous life.